Take a card, any card. You'll probably wish you hadn't.
Kids know what they are.
A baby getting beat up.
Parents and educators think that this whole garbage pail thing will soon pass.
They were gross, hilarious, and sometimes downright offensive, but for a lot of us 80s kids, Garbage Pail Kids were something we just couldn't get enough of. Whether you loved them or your parents hated them, these cards left a mark on pop culture, and maybe your school record if you got caught. Hey guys, Matt here, and welcome back to the Nostalgic Neighborhood. You know, when I started this channel, I wanted to rotate through BMX, skateboarding, and pop culture, all the stuff that made our childhood so awesome. And lately I've been heavy on the bikes and skateboarding, but we're swinging back to pop culture today with one of my favorite 80s fads, Garbage Pail Kids. This video isn't really meant to dive deep into the history of the brand. There are plenty of other YouTube videos for that, but we'll cover the basics, and mostly I want to reflect on the fun times we had as kids collecting these things.
I'll trade you Harry for Messy Tessie. I already have Messy Tessie. Okay.
So yeah, Garbage Pail Kids exploded onto the scene in the summer of 1985 thanks to Topps, the same company behind baseball cards, wacky packages, and a gazillion other franchises. And as you can tell, I still love collecting trading cards all these years later. Unlike traditional trading cards, they were a little bit rebellious, sort of a middle finger to the clean-cut, wholesome vibe of Cabbage Patch Kids, and ironically the beginning of a massive legal battle with the Cabbage Patch brand. For a lot of us, Garbage Pail Kids were our first taste of being edgy. It felt like contraband in our grade school world, something that made parents gasp and teachers roll their eyes, but for us kids, that was half the fun.
But parents aren't laughing.
He's sitting there with a button in his lap ready to, or he blows his head off, and when it comes off, it looks like the atomic bomb. It looks communistic. It looks like maybe someone is trying to break the American family.
Some parents went bonkers over Garbage Pail Kids. Characters like Tommy Gun and Hot Scott freaked them out. Schools banned them for being bad influences and a distraction in the classroom.
The cards have been banned by some school principals, from the West Coast to the East.
Simply said, if you have them, fine, keep them home. Monday morning, I don't want to see them in school.
My parents weren't huge fans, but they didn't really mind them either, thankfully. And let's face it, the fact that teachers hated them only made them cooler.
Can't even play with them at recess time. What are you supposed to do, just sit there? I mean, really?
Back then, Garbage Pail Kids felt like punk rock trading cards. It was our mild rebellion in wax pack form, no real harm done, just a lot of gory cartoons and booger jokes. I mean, what's not to love? Growing up, they defined entire summers for me, especially that magic summer of 1985. My friends and I would bike to the local drugstore, pockets full of allowance, and blow it all on candy and packs of cards. I actually mentioned this in a video I made last fall when I took my 26-inch GT Performer back to my old stomping grounds. Those rides were about the journey and the junk food, and of course that moment when you'd crack open a fresh pack, hoping for a rare card. As for my first pack, I can't remember exactly which cards I got, but two that I distinctly remember early on were Nasty Nick and TV Stevie. That's all it took. I was totally hooked. Unfortunately, most of my Series 1 cards are long gone. I somehow lost them years ago, and honestly, I have no idea what happened. It's such a bummer because Series 1 is the most valuable, and I had a lot of them, but I'm stoked to still have a bunch of my OG cards from the next few series. I've got a few hundred cards in this binder here, about 40 pages worth. There's so much from my childhood that I wish I'd held on to, but I'm really stoked that these are one of the few things that I never got rid of. It's wild to look back and remember how much fun it was to collect these with my friends. Oh yeah, this one right here, Split Kit. This was always a favorite of mine. I loved how they captured two completely different personalities in one card. It was such a fun concept. And then a little bit earlier, I passed it. But of course, how could I not love this one? It had my name on it, Matt the Rat. And then a little bit earlier, I passed it as well. One of my other favorites that I always loved was Leaky Lindsay. And in my case, I only had the Messy Tessie. But this one is so classic, so cool. She's playing a cat's cradle with her snot. And I just thought it was hilarious how over the top they could get with the gross out factor on these cards. So cool.
I think they're icky and gross. Some of the things on them are a little bit disgusting.
And who can forget the ridiculous stuff on the card backs? Cheater's license, permit to stay up late. Did anyone actually try handing these to their parents or a teacher? If you did, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear how that went. I could spend hours flipping through these pages and reminiscing, but let me know, do you still have your cards? Or maybe you were one of the unlucky kids whose parents tossed them out. Share your stories in the comments, especially if you tried using those goofy awards. I'd love to hear about it. Naturally, the media frenzy only fueled the hype. News anchors acted like these cards were destroying civilization. Meanwhile, Topps was laughing all the way to the bank when they could keep up with demand.
We sold out of them. We can't keep them in stock.
To me, Garbage Pail Kids were a bite-sized reflection of the counterculture vibes of the 80s, like a gentler cartoon version of punk rock or underground comics. They weren't just a fad, they were a gateway for us kids to push boundaries in a goofy, harmless way.
Yo!
And then came the movie. Garbage Pail Kids, the movie, was supposed to cement their place in pop culture. Instead, it flopped hard. Released in 1987, it barely made back its $1 million budget. And I've never seen it because I've always heard that it's pretty much one of the worst movies ever made.
Like anyone can even know that.
If you've seen it, let me know in the comments if you think it's worth a watch. And I'm not even gonna go into the unreleased cartoon series, also from 1987, but you can find those episodes on YouTube too. By the late 80s, the fad began to fizzle out. Like so many trends, it had its moment in the spotlight, but it couldn't last forever. The lawsuit from the owners of Cabbage Patch Kids certainly didn't help. Topps settled and had to make the characters less doll-like, which may have taken away some of the edge that made them so iconic, but probably it was just the natural life cycle of a craze. Today, Garbage Pail Kids are back and just as gross as ever. Topps began releasing new cards again around 2003, and they've been going strong ever since with all kinds of creative sets. They've also struck some awesome licensing deals, partnering with collectible and toy manufacturers to produce everything from toys and skateboards to R.L. Stine books, clothes, and then even challenge coins. Garbage Pail Kids has not only survived, but cemented its place in pop culture. And here's something I haven't shared before. I'm a big fan of tiki bars, and I've built up a pretty solid tiki mug collection over the years, and one of my favorite pieces is this Atom Bomb mug. It's such a fun nod to Garbage Pail Kids nostalgia. And for anyone looking to dive deeper into the world of Garbage Pail Kids, there's this incredible book with full color photos of every card from series 1 to 5. It's a great way to revisit the classics. For me, these cards go beyond collecting. They're a ticket to simpler times, a reminder that sometimes being a little gross is a lot of fun. So what's your Garbage Pail Kids story? Were you banned from bringing them to school? Did your mom toss them out? Or maybe you managed to keep your prized Series 1 set and now you're sitting on a gold mine? Let me know down in the comments below. Which card was your all-time favorite? And if you could invent a new card today, what would you call it? And hey, challenge time. Send this to a friend who used to collect Garbage Pail Kids with you. See if they still have their stash. I'd love to hear their stories too. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with any 80s kid who still remembers the smell of a freshly opened wax pack. Until next time, ride safe, stay stoked, and keep it weird, Garbage Pail Kids style. All right, thanks.
Hey, I'll give you one Russell Muscle and one Brutal Brad for a sewer suit, okay?